Several years ago, the EU gave us a wonderful piece of regulation called GDPR. And I'm sure, just like me, you truly enjoy the great benefit of having to click again and again and again and again to all these cookie warnings you see at pretty much every website. The EU did such a fantastic job on GDPR that they decided to do a sequel. On October 4th, 2022, the EU passed a law that will require manufacturers of certain electronic devices to use USB-C as a charging port. In this video, I will explain what this new law means for your devices going forward, and specifically what this means for the obvious target of this law, Apple. My name is Sam, and this channel is all about helping you demystify tech, so consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. So I'm going to start this video with a caveat. I have been wanting Apple to move to USB-C since the iPhone 10 days. But it seems Apple, at some point in the past several years, decided that user experience is really not their top priority, but profits are. There are zero technical reasons why Apple couldn't easily move to USB-C. But there is a big financial reason why. If you're a cable manufacturer and you want to sell lightning cables under Apple's MFi or Made for iPhone program, you have to pay Apple a certain percentage for each cable sold. I believe something around 10% per cable. Now, an MFi cable is for sure a higher quality cable that guarantees it will work without issues with your iPhone, but that doesn't change the fact that Apple makes coin on each sale. So, of course they don't want to shut off that spigot. Now, my reason for wanting USB-C is that I wanted faster transfer speeds. I wanted to be able to transfer files from my iPhone to my computer at faster than the current totally unacceptable USB 2 speeds that even the current iPhone 14 supports in 2022. The iPhone 14 supports ProRes 4K video recording. The size of those files are enormous, and downloading with Lightning takes a very, very long time. So I'm forced to use iCloud to sync those files to the cloud and then download to my Mac. But the more I thought about it over the years, I would have been fine with Lightning as long as they upgraded the port speed to be more in line with USB-C Gen 3. Now, if you polled all the iPhone users, more than likely you would find that less than 1% care about USB-C. And those are people like me who want those fast transfer speeds. Outside of the tech world, I have never heard someone complain about having to use Lightning. So I can understand why they don't care to spend engineering dollars to appease users such as myself. I still don't like it though. On top of everything else, Apple wants you to use their iCloud service as much as possible. The more you use it, the larger online space you need, which means you have to upgrade to their more expensive, larger tier. More profit for Apple. So what is the EU doing? So the new EU law will mandate that any of these devices listed here that are released after October 4th, 2024, if that device has a charging port, it will have to be a USB-C port. Now, why are they doing all this? By having a common charging system, they will prevent e-waste since people will not have to replace charging components when they upgrade their device. They can also have a better user experience since everybody can use a common charger. Both laudable goals. But here's the odd thing. All chargers sold today are USB-C. The only difference would be the cable itself. I have a big issue though with governments getting into the engineering space. They are mandating how companies need to engineer their products with very specific rules. This is not like mandating seatbelts in cars. It's more like mandating that all cars need to have CD players. They are mandating that everyone use a technology that is currently 10 years old and will definitely stifle innovation. What if a company wants to sell a tablet that requires a unique connector in order to connect to some larger ecosystem? Now that tablet could be charged from that port as well. Now with this law, whether they like it or not, they have to include a USB-C port. This is not only wasteful, but an extra cost to design and modify the electronics to support USB-C, and of course that cost will be passed on to the consumer. 12 years ago, the EU standardization body made micro USB the charging standard for all mobile devices. Fortunately, that was just a standard and not a law. If it was a law, would we see USB-C today? Would any manufacturer invest in USB-C if they were not sure they would be able to use it? That is my issue with the EU making such a specific law. Now, let me be clear, having standards is a good thing. Go to any home and you will find the same power outlet no matter which part of the country you go to. But what the EU is doing is not the same thing. In my home, I have a ton of devices, computers, TVs, etc. They all connect to the same wall outlet, but they don't all have the same connector, as it should be. Here's what they should have mandated. The law should have required all the major manufacturers of electronic devices that account for, let's say, 90% of the items in the market to get together once every 5 years and agree to a common charging brick. Otherwise, the EU would decide for them. Obviously, companies wouldn't want that, so they would definitely come to an agreement. This is a win-win for all. The engineers get to innovate, and the consumer gets a common standard. So now, what does this all mean for Apple? A few days after this law was passed, Joanna Stern of the Wall Street Journal asked Greg Joswiak about the USB-C law, and this is what he said.
With these cables over time, if they're no longer useful, and again, billions of them, right? Because everybody has more than one cable. And so we preferred that path. Governments, get to do what they're going to do, and obviously we'll have to comply. We have no choice, as we do around the world, to comply to local law.
All right. I guess, how soon might we see it? USB-C.
Well, again, the Europeans are the ones dictating timing for European customers, and you know their.
But you wouldn't
their
just
rules.
probably change it in one area.
Oh, Joanna, you're trying to get me to predict the future,
Oh,
or at least disclose it, and you know me better than that.
All right.
Now, if you paid attention, you would see that he never committed to a timeline, as, is typical Apple fashion. Everyone in the media, though, jumped on those words and pretty much said that Apple will move to USB-C next year. I think they're all wrong. This law means nothing for Apple. The law takes effect on October 4th, 2024. And Apple always announces new iPhones when? In September. So the earliest this law would apply to Apple would be the iPhone that will be announced in September 2025, the iPhone 17. 3 iPhones from now. If you have been paying attention to the evolution of the iPhone, you would have noticed that they are slowly eliminating ports. Headphone jack, gone. SIM slot, gone this year. Physical volume buttons about to be gone and be replaced by haptic engines, according to Ming-Chi Kuo, who is one of the most reliable Apple analysts around. So what is going to happen is that iPhone 17 will not have a charging port, and it will be strictly charged wirelessly. I can't think of a new phone sold today that doesn't support wireless charging. And since most people upgrade their phone on average, every 2 to 3 years, every person in 2025 will have a phone that charges wirelessly. And with wireless chargers becoming ubiquitous, this will not be an issue. Everywhere you look today, there are wireless chargers. I barely use a cable to charge my phone. It's been wireless chargers for the past couple of years. All new cars have them now. If anything, this will make the one charger solution that the EU wants even easier to achieve. The only iPhone that could potentially have a USB-C port is some high-end model that would appeal to professional users that would need that kind of connector, possibly a Thunderbolt 3.4 variety. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Another thing that Apple will not implement at this point either is RCS. What is RCS, you say? Check out my video explaining RCS and why it is not ready yet, and even Google now admits as much. Thanks for watching, and subscribe and smash the notification bell if you enjoyed this video.